Hello, dear students. Today we'll be discussing industrial relations and employee relations and labor laws. Today we'll be having an introduction about what industrial relations are and how it started, especially in India, and how it emerged over a period of time. So, when we talk about industrial relations, it is concerned with the relationships between management and workers and the role of regulatory mechanism in resolving any industrial dispute. The relation between workers and management, they have gone Herculean changes in our country. There had been a system of kings and his subjects all should work to improve the coffers of the king. Later, zamindars came and workers were at their mercy. And sometimes they were bonded laborers as well. But later, with the formation of East India Company and British rule, hire and fire system was established, and industrial workers were no man's child. Neither the employers nor government cared for them. So there were no unions as well. So gradually, enlightened leaders came in like Gokhale, MK Gandhi, Roy, Tilak, etc. They felt the need for workers' union. So their relentless efforts forced both government and employers to think of workers. Lots small unions were formed. Government enacted rules like Trade Union Act, 1926, Industrial Dispute Act, and etc. They were formed on. So the workers began to realize their status and they were awakened. So a sort of uprighting workers and reluctant management has started functioning. And soon workers were motivated by industrial acts enacted by parliament supporting them and looking after their health, welfare, safety, social security, etc. It got emboldened to raise their voice. And at the same time, management also has started improving more and more industries which were nationalized and public sector came into existence at number of places like textiles, insurance, banks, transport and all those. And with the increasing number of public sectors, workers' lifestyle changed and their assured job arrogated unions, appeasing management administration with less accountability. Workers had their field day, then public sector started doing more of social service than business and profit doling out public exchequer. And slowly, this trend is changing with the government's reversal policy, like decentralization and privatization. But the thing is, when we talk about these employees and when we talk about laborers in particular, the conditions were not very good. So there was a sense of intervention by the government so as to secure laborers as well as the relationship between the employees and laborers. So, industrial relations looks at the relationship between management and workers, particularly groups of workers represented by a union, and it's basically the interaction between employers, employees, and the government, and the institutions and associations through which such interactions are mediated. So, all those bodies, government bodies, which are associated with mm, harmonizing in a relationship between employer, employees, and the government, they all comprise of the relationship which is known as industrial relations. So it has a broader as well as narrow outlook. It includes processes through which these relationships are expressed, such as collective bargaining, workers' participation in decision making, grievance and disputes settlement, and the management of conflict between employers, workers, trade unions when it arises. So basically, when we talk about and these industrial relations. So, it basically is the welfare of laboring classes that it should be done by every employer. Any betterment of their conditions must proceed more from the employers downwards rather than forced by the demands from below, since labor contented, well housed, well fed, and generally well looked after is not only an asset and advantageous to the employer but serves to raise the standard of industry and labor in the country. So it is sheer injustice on the part of any management to take advantage of poor, helpless conditions of workers and exploit them with more work extractions and less insufficient payment. So workers' illiteracy and lack and training made them to work in unhealthy conditions for very low compensation. So at this juncture, industrial relations need was felt to protect workers' right, wages, etc. And at the same time, industrial relations cannot remain producing the right of one side only in the industry. They have to protect the rights of employers as well. So IR is declared through act what are illegal strikes and various standing orders to protect the dignity of supervisor managers and of course employers. So when we talk about industrial relations, it is not only talking about the laborers or it is not talking about only about the employees, but it is talking about the employers as well. So, if we go by the proper definition, we have lot many definitions for IR, and herein we are using Dale Yoder's definition, which defines industrial relations as relationships between management and employees or among employees and their organization that characterize or grow out of employment. Herein, it is very, very important to know that we are talking about those relationships which grow out of the employment. That means there must be a relationship, employment relationship between the workers and the employer. So we have a much more concrete definition which is being given by the ILO, which says that industrial relation comprise relationships between the state on one hand and the employers and employees, organizations on the other hand, and the relationship among the occupational organizations themselves. That means ILO gave a more broader concept and definition of IR, which does not cover only employees or laborers, but it covers employees, employers, and relationship between employer and employer as well. That means industry in the relationship in the industry as well. So, industrial relations is concerned with the relationship between management and workers and the role of regulatory mechanism in resolving any industrial dispute. So, here in regulatory mechanism, which is there to intervene or to have a controlling mechanism, would be state or government. So, this is what the proper definition of IR is, and it the basically concept of industrial relation is to preserve and promote economic interest of workers along with social interest. So peace and productivity goes hand in hand. So attempt is to reduce industrial dispute and promote peace, which is very very necessary. Which is very very essential for a industry to grow and to work in harmony. Then employer and employee relationship should be made healthy and growing. And also industrial relations which works for running of an industry day-to-day work, that it should be made more democratic with increasing workers participation, and then producing products at a very competitive price so that country can promote export and our economy can improve. So that means it does not take care only of relationship which is governed in between employees and employers, but it talks about the relationship which is buying by the employment, and objective of that employment is to produce products at a very competitive price so that it can take care of economy of the country as well, and then bringing mental revolution in the management. So there has to be something which employers as well as employees work together, not only to uplift the organization, they are not concerned only with the profit maximization or optimization of the organization, of the industry, but of the society at large. They have to go for the overall mental revolution, which is gonna to bring up remarkable change in the society and in the workers in general. So when we talk about that, what should be the determinants of good industrial relations, how it can be promoted? So it can be measures by securing and preserving unity and better relationships between employers and workers, and it should also arrange to probe and settle industrial dispute between employer and employee, and employer and employer, and employee and employee, because we are having three you can say sets of relationships. One set of relationship is between employer and employee, second is between employer and employer, and third is between employee and employee, so that it gives a proper representation of to workers union and industrial federation of the employers as well. And both the ultimate weapons of employers and employee, like that is strike and lockout, it has to be prevented. Industrial relations, they promote prevention of strike and lockout at any cost. So they are working on industrial relations, work on the relief to workers, even if after a lockout or layoff through government agencies. And workers' participation at all levels should encourage and give and take principle in collective bargaining. So when we talk about, say, areas that industrial relation covers, so basically industrial relation covers following areas, which is collective bargaining, role of unions and management in government, machinery for the resolution of industrial dispute, individual grievance and disciplinary policy and practice, labor legislation, industrial relations, and training. So, talking about the areas that it is taking care of, we have, say, collective bargaining. When we talk about collective bargaining, industrial relations takes care of collective bargaining in a manner because worker who is illiterate, because who is not having much of say in the say management or in the decision making, he is powerless individual in an enterprise, because he is the he is the unit of an enterprise. So through collective bargaining, when we talk about the collective bargaining, industrial relations, because employees are represented through unions, and when there is a union in organization, it gives more power to an individual for bargain. Otherwise, as an individual, as a worker or as a labor, he was not having those that power. He was not having that much of say and to put forward his, say, grievances, or to fight for the causes which he was supposed to. So he was a very weak you can say unit in the enterprise. But because of the industrial relations and because of the intervention of the government and focus on and encouragement of trade unions in the organization, so collective bargaining too got the attention and focus of the industrial relations. So collective bargaining gave more of power to the union vis-a-vis employee or labor. Then role of union and management and government. When we talk about role of unions, see, the unions, they are not only meant for highlighting problems of, say, workers, but their prime responsibility too is to enhance cordial relationship between employer and employee. They have to work for the efficient working of the organization, because role of union is very, very crucial in an organization, in an enterprise. Through union, representation of worker is being put forward in front of management. So union has to be very, very fair, and it has to be very, very it has to be very, very just in putting forward the real and say real problems in front of management, and simultaneously should support management in the times of crisis, so that they can expect cooperation from the workers. Then role of management. Management should not think only of profit maximization, or they should not think that workers or laborers are mere the tools or ways or means to achieve or say enterprisal say whether it is objective or it is productivity service whatever. So they are not only the means to meet the organizational objectives, but management has to take an approach, a positive approach, so as to provide them conducive environment in an enterprise, wherein which will help not only in the development of organization but in the development of worker as well, in the development of, in the upliftment of development of the worker, and so that his say so that his work status, so that his life status too enhances with the growth of organization. It should not happen that only man organization is growing and your worker or labor who is at the basic, who is at the basic level of your hierarchy, he is not growing. So IR through industrial relations, that security of development is there. And then government, role of government is to act as a watchdog or to act as a say intervention whenever there are disputes or whenever there are conflicts which goes in between management and the worker or between employer and the employer. So government has to take an action, government has to take a controlling measure so as to resolve conflict, so as to put an end to the dispute and promote peace in the industry. Then IR is it is giving us the machinery for resolution of industrial disputes through various acts. We have Industrial Dispute Act, which gives us the machinery for resolution of industrial disputes. So that means even if there are disputes which arise in between worker and employer or employer and employer, so government is this industrial relations or through enactment of laws, it is giving the machinery for resolving those industrial disputes, may it be through arbitration, may it be through adjudication, may it be through labor courts, industrial tribunals or national tribunals or even labor courts. So it is giving us a resolution for industrial dispute as and when it arises and as and when the level of resolution is required. Then industrial grievance and disciplinary policy and practice. Because there was no heat to the workers say problems, and they were it was their problems usually were unheard by the management. So industrial relations government thought of having an individual grievance and disciplinary policy, which is giving a tight hand to the management in form of not exploiting workers and laborers in an enterprise. So for this thing also, through the enactment, through the labor legislation, we have proper grievance redressal mechanism, which is being, which has to be followed by each and every enterprise at their own level, so as to handle the individual grievances and have a proper ethical code and a code of discipline in the organization, so as to have a discipline, a harmonious discipline policy in the enterprise. Then labor legislation, as I said, that industrial relations through the enactments, they gave machinery for resolution of industrial disputes. So we have laid down, not it is not only industrial disputes which is being taken care by the legislation, but it is for the health and welfare as well, even for protection of say interest of the labor. May it be say Factories Act, may it be say may it be Factories Act, may it be Industrial Dispute Act, may it be Trade Union Act, may it be Maternity Benefit Act, may it be Bonus Act, may it be, we have lot many acts. So labor legislation through in the government through labor legislation is also giving is also giving secured life lifestyle and a secured working environment for the labor. Then industrial relations training. Industrial relation training is very, very important because it is industrial relation is not covering only the relationships that is being maintained between the employer and the employee, but it has to work for the economic upliftment of the society and the national economy. So, industrial relation trainings of supervisors is of utmost importance so as to reduce the conflicts as well as wastages as well as accidents in the factories or in the plants or in enterprise. So industrial relation trainings, government government does you know government has lot many schemes wherein which is promoting certain workshops, trainings for industrial people so as to enhance not only productivity but the health and safety measures of the workers as well. Then role of IR. What is the role of IR? What industrial relation is doing? It covers the following areas, but it's what for it is covering. What is the role? Its main role is the productivity increase in industrial establishments. So basically, these industrial relations, they are they are increasing productivity through economy generation, through maintaining demand and supply of products, and how it is maintained when there is uninterrupted supply of that product into the market, and how that uninterrupted supply would be possible only when there are cordial relationship between the labor and employer. When employer is taking care of labor's needs, requirements, so automatically he will take care of production, he will take care of wastages, he will take care of quality. So it will not only enhance productivity, but it will enhance economy and overall growth of the country. Then it protects the workers interest and improves their economic conditions. We have lot many acts, like we have minimum wages act, we have compensation act, we have ESI act, which is purely focusing, and which is purely enacted towards the improvement of the economic condition of the labor. Even we have gratuity act. So these all these acts have been made so as to secure economic condition of a labor, because labor was not very much educated and he was not very much aware as to how to secure, say, a part of his income or part of his wages for the rainy days to come, or for post retirement, or in the requirement of maybe he's falling ill when um, uh, during the times of his illness, or even at the times of the sudden death of the bread earner of the family. So government, through various enactments, it worked on the improvement of the economic conditions of the laborers. Then it protects the right of managers too. As I said, that industrial relations, they are not only focused on manager, only on workers, but it takes care of employers as well. So, and regulates employees behavior, because we have code of discipline, we have a code of conduct in an organization, then we have certain enactments, they come with certain fines, they come with certain punishments when there is deviation of employees behavior in an organization or in an enterprise. So it regulates, it not only protects the right of employees, but protects the right of managers too, and regulates employees behavior and prescribes punishments for deviation from the agreed code of discipline and work norms. So when we talk about all these aspects, uh, what role it plays, so we have to have an idea about that, who are the parties who are mainly involved in maintaining all these. As we said that it is the relationship between the employers, employees and government, and then obviously it forms the sets of relationships, that is employer and employees, employees and employees, employer and employees, and government as well. So primarily we are having three main parties which are involved in industrial relations. We have employers, we have employees, and we have government. So when we talk about employers, they possess certain rights vis-a-vis laborers. They have the right to hire and fire them. Management can also affect workers' interests by exercising their right to relocate closer, merge the factory, or to introduce technological changes. That means legislation is giving that much of free hand to the employers so that they can accommodate the changes which are coming into the, say, market, or which are through or even it is providing that industrial cushion to the unseen changes and unseen forces that affect the working of an enterprise. May it be technological factor, may it be political pressure, may it be legal factors. So employers are one of the parties that manage all these, say, factors, and also takes care of the laborers. Then employees. Workers seek to improve the terms and conditions of their employment. They exchange views with management and voice their grievances, because employees or laborers, what they want, they basically want a good working environment which can secure their economic conditions and take care of their grievances. So they also want to share decision making powers of the management. Employees, through industrial relations, they want that they should be heard. Their suggestions should be implemented as and when required. That means they must have some say in decision making. And through participative management and democratic, say, employees, say, democracy, workers democracy in an organization, all these things are being taken care of. So workers generally unite to form unions against the management and get support from these unions. Generally, we say that they unite to form unions against the management. Maybe prime objective would have been when trade union act was formed, that because at that time the exploitation of the workers was there. So the prime motive was to form a union against the management. But now, as with the changing times, the approach of union and the approach of management has both approaches have changed towards one another. So they should work for the betterment of the industrial establishment. Workers, they must form unions, not only against the management, but for the enhancement of management as well. And they should get support from these unions, not only to put forward their grievances, but to adapt, to accommodate the required changes in the market or in the industry, so as to enhance production of the enterprise or production of the plant as well. And the government, the third party is government, because government is, as I said, it is acting as a controlling mechanism, or it is the holding it is holding employers at one hand and employees at other hand. So it is not letting employers to do what they want to do, and it is not also letting employees to do what they wish to do. So it is having that control over the influences, and it regulates those industrial relations through laws, rules, agreements, and maybe a word of court, and like that. So it includes third parties and labor and tribunal codes. As I said, we have arbitration, we have adjudication. So all these are third party interventions, so as to enhance and to reach to a consensus which is being agreed upon both the parties, employer and employees, in case of any conflict, in case of any grievance, in case of any dispute that arises. So basically, industrial relations, when we talk about, they develop on a spirit of team development, team building workers, and they must be seen as a partners in industry for national development through industrial development. And most of the laws and government's directives, they want to enforce workers participation through joint councils, maybe collective improvement workers, and all that. So this was all about introduction of industrial relations. And I hope you have understood how it works in an organization. Thank you.